Hey there guys, before we actually get into the topic of this video, I want to make a quick little shout out and a little snippet. This video is sponsored by me! Hey, do you guys like Pride merch? Because I currently have a bunch of new stuff in my online store and my Etsy. I'll leave you the top link in my description box down below. I have Pride potions for Pride Month. I still have my AAPI Stop AAPI Hate charity stickers for sale. I have new charms in my shop, as well as new stickers for some things and the like in there. And so I would love it if you guys check it out. Checked it out, and let's get into the video. Bye bye. All right, so hi guys. Hopefully my voice sounds okay. I've been having a little bit of a bad allergy time right now, but we are going into now more of the convention videos that I was talking about for my little convention series. If you guys are new here, you just found this video, hi, my name is Michi, or TwistedDisaster. I am a freelance artist. I do Artist Alley, I have an online store, I do other freelance work, but I mostly do digital art, and I've also been going to conventions for a long time, and I've been seeing a terrible lot of discourse recently about things going on because the world is finally starting to somewhat kind of maybe go back to some semblance of what it used to be. I know it's not fully going to be what it used to be, but because of that, conventions are starting back up, and I actually love going to conventions and not just working them, but I love just going again. And so I wanted to give some basic just people advice from a con goer slash someone who's worked conventions. I have my paper ASMR here because for a lot of other people too, this is going to be their very first anime conventions or things like that. Now, to specify, I've only ever been to Anime Expo, San Japan, and Anime Impulse, but I have gone to Anime Expo every year since about 2008. I think I only skipped a year or two in that range, and because of some things that I won't be going into in this video, I will not be attending anytime soon. But yeah, so I have some experience mostly as a con goer, but I wanted to come here, sit down, and give my advice to you guys to help you out, because during Six Spiky Round Boy, there's been a lot of people who have been opening up their horizons to media and a style that most people don't. I'm pretty sure most of my normal watchers do, but a lot of people, again, it's their first time. And so here's some just basic stuff going on. Or you might be a young teenager or a youngin' yourself, and you might just be like, I really, really, really want to go, and I've never gone. So here is a basic list. Got my paper ASMR here of some con etiquette. The Artist Alley one, which I'm sure most of you are pretty much excited about because I'm mostly an art channel. It's going to be its own video because the basic con one is just already a lot. I know you can't hear it, but I'm using a big notebook today instead of my little one. And so because of that and so many notes, I don't want this to be an overly long video. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to start off with sections. So we're going to go into cosplayers. Not you yourself cosplaying. I do not feel comfortable giving advice on cosplaying because I've never done it. I've dressed up at cons, but I've never done the whole deal. So I'm also a person where I will admit where, hey, if I don't have personal experience or know people who have had personal experience and told me personally their experiences or wish to share it, I'm not comfortable giving advice on something I literally know almost nothing about. So when you're going up to cosplayers and you want photos, great grammar already to start. If you want to go up to cosplayers, most cosplayers want their photos taken. It's kind of a big reason for why they do what they do. But usually if they are, and this is something I used to take offense to when I was a wee little weeb, where, you know, they'd be like off running somewhere, they'd be sitting down eating, or they would, you know, just be like surrounded by other people and I'd want to talk to them. And I used to kind of take offense to it, and people are still going to take offense to it. But as an adult now, and, you know, seeing how people are, and having a couple of friends who have cosplayed and told me horror stories, there's a lot that goes into it that most people don't talk about. So if you see a cosplayer or a cosplay group just sitting down and eating, don't go up to them. Don't bother them. They're probably going to be there the entire con. They probably have a lot of stuff on their plate. Let them eat. Let them enjoy it. Let them sit and rest. And don't be too upset if they're being a little tired or snooty towards you at that point. I know I would be. Another thing is, if you want pictures, don't just go up and take pictures. Be polite, ask. If they say they're in a rush or something, maybe in a non-creepy way, maybe ask like, oh, are you going to like a cosplay meetup where you can see more people in said cosplay for photos and photo ops? Most of the time they'll say yes. Other times they might, they are still people, so they might have to go do something or be in a rush, or maybe they're hosting a panel and they have to go. And in those cases, they just gotta go. Another big one is, and this is something I had to learn. Oh, one of those things I regret now that I'm an adult. Um, is if your cosplayer says please don't touch them or their costume, don't do it. It should kind of be a given, but there are some cosplay that spent hours, weeks, days putting together. There are others. I remember I would see a lot of people who had like I forget the technical term, but they're those like little wax beads that you like melt with wax paper and stuff, where people make full on pixel costumes like out of those things. And I would see those people be like, "Please don't touch me," and then people be like, "Well, why'd you make the costume if you didn't want to be like hugged and stuff?" It's like to show off the skill in the costume is why they did it. Like they did it for that reason. They didn't do it so random people could aggressively hug them and break their cosplay. So I bring this up because one of my biggest moments that I so badly regret now that I'm 28 is I am a big BioShock fan. Hi, you might not know this about me. I love the BioShock series. I have it tattooed on my skin. I have art books. I have all the games on multiple platforms. I'm obsessed with it. One year, I I saw it. I saw a full on Big Daddy, and oh my god, I wanted to hug this Big Daddy so bad. Now, keep in mind, at this point, I was technically an adult. I was anywhere between like 18 and 20, so I was in that like I'm an adult, but I realistically, mentally, I was still a kid. And I can very very proudly say that now. And I remember the person with the Big Daddy was cosplaying as a little sister, and I remember like running up because we were in a parking lot, which is also even more cringy telling this story, because we were like leaving. They were clearly leaving, and I ran up and I was like, "Oh my god, I am such a big fan. I've never seen a real Big Daddy. Can I please give you a hug?" And the Big Daddy didn't answer. The little sister cosplayer answered, and keep in mind the little sister was very much an adult. It wasn't like an actual kid. And she was like, "No, you can't touch him." And I remember getting so insulted and so upset as she was like putting stuff in her car. And the Big Daddy pretty much, I think, saw that. And whoever you were, Big Daddy at AX years ago, I can't believe you like humored me. But thank you. But me now, I'm like, oh, that costume must have taken so long for them to put together and get right and to be walking around in. And my stupid, stupid brain, I want to curse there, but I don't want to edit this video too much, literally was like, must hug. And I did, and I got to hug the Big Daddy. The Big Daddy gave me a hug. But as an adult now, I'm like, oh, I really hope I didn't break something off that costume. Oh, they were probably tired. It's one of those I regret. In the moment I was so happy, but I was like, take that, little sister. Yeah, I still got my hug. No, I realistically, I should have just taken the L and been like, all right, I don't get a hug. That's why I'm making this here. So that way, if you see this stuff, you're not going to take it personally, hopefully. There are rude cosplayers. They do exist. I'm not saying that they're saints here, but take it with a grain of salt, especially if they've had a long day or they've been doing this and that, so that's mostly all I have about that. But the next basic thing I have written down here is bring some kind of a lunch or budget for con food, because I'm telling you right now, the convention actually at the con is going to suck. It's going to suck. In the convention hall, it's going to suck. It's going to be like really overpriced, like bleacher food. If you've ever been to like a sports event or like maybe a public high school event, at least in the U.S., you're gonna easily be spending like $16 for a goddamn hot dog, and it's not a good hot dog at that. Any ramen you get at the con is gonna be like a $5 to $6 ramen when they usually cost like a dollar something in a Daiso. Like it's all gonna be extremely overpriced, and for some people, that's part of like the fun of the con is getting to have like the really bad con food. Usually what they will have is outside of the con, they will usually have food trucks or food vendors with that usually is really good food. But also, again, finger quote, or I don't have a camera. I don't know why I said finger quote, but like finger rubbing emoji because I'm rubbing my fingers right now, and I have artwork in the background, so you're not seeing my face. But uh, it's expensive. It's expensive. It's very expensive. Any Starbucks in the area is gonna be like 4 times as much during a con. It's all so be prepared for that. If you are, and the reason why I bring this, if you are a youngster, okay, and you only have like after getting said badge, you only have like $40 to spend. Do you really want to spend like 20 of that just on food? Unless that's part of the experience and you're all about panels and everything else and you're not about shopping, which is fine. There are people who are like that, and that's great for you. You'll probably make that $40 last a long time. I always loved the shopping in the artist alley. I know it's surprising here. But so because of that, I do think everyone should experience con food at some point so they know. But if you've already done that and you're kind of a seasoned con goer and you're like, all right, I'm on a tight budget, no, 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 no. Literally just bring your own food. They usually won't care. They shouldn't, at least from the cons I've been to. Yeah, they're not going to care if you bring like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or some granola or something. But on top of that, also stay hydrated. Bring water bottles. They do not always offer water bottle refilling stations there. The bathrooms are usually not very clean. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend buying like a very big Jahungus water bottle. If you hear that sloshing noise, that's mine. I currently have like a 32-ounce insulated knockoff thermoflask or thermoflume or whatever the kids call it nowadays. Where it's, the fancy one, because I wasn't going to spend that money on a water bottle when I can get the same thing for like $10. But trust me, you're going to want it because I also wouldn't trust drinking fountains right now, just in general. And you are going to be thirsty. You're going to be walking around a lot. So be prepared for that and look into restaurants in the area. Most conventions are either in a hotel or in a big city in most cases. So usually you will end up actually finding lots of restaurants and stuff near as well. And that way you can have a good experience. One of my best memories was going to Anime Expo and us going to a bunch of like little mom and pop restaurants that were like less than a 10-minute drive away. So that's obviously if you had a car, because it would have been more walking. But keep that in mind. Be prepared for that. And again, Google. You're going to hear a lot of things where I'm going to say Google the area because, again, I only really know by heart the LA area because it's the con I went to the most. But as I do more, I'm slowly, gaining more knowledge in that. But want to be prepared for that so that way you're not spending all of your budget on con food. Now, the next one is stay hydrated, stay cool or warm, do research, and plan ahead. So the reason why I have that written there is a lot of conventions that are indoors will often actually be really, really, really cold because of all the people that are going to be in it. They usually have the AC like at full max. And so because of that, you are most likely going to end up having like you're going to be surprised if you're not going to want a jacket. Every year I've gone to AX, even though it would be in the blistering July California 115 plus heat. That's Fahrenheit, by the way, because I live in America, which is stupid. I don't know the Celsius conversion, so have fun with that. And I would still have to bring a hoodie or a sweater because the second you go in the hall or the vendor's hall, you are just freezing. And I'm a person that likes the cold. I've also heard the opposite, though. I've heard, like, again, if you are going to, like, an outdoor con in the middle of the summer, be prepared to not, like, over sweat. Be prepared not to, give yourself heat stroke. So look at the area, look at the times. Definitely do a weather forecast before the con, like, the week before. Trust me. Also look up. There are so many, like, we live in a beautiful age of the internet and Google right now. So look up people's experience. Simply say, like, hey, how should dress for blah, blah, blah? Or will, blah, blah, blah be accommodated? Or, should I do this and that? Just have it. Better safe than sorry. And on that, I also have, please, for the love of whatever God or higher power you believe in, bring comfortable shoes. You are going to be walking a lot. And if you are a person who needs like walking aids, like crutches, a cane, or a wheelchair, people might complain and it be more of a bulky thing to do. Bring that. If you need those to walk around, you're going to be walking around a lot. Even at smaller cons, I have walked around so much in just looking at everything. So you need to be prepared for that. And a lot of people will, like, especially if you are doing cosplay, they will often have like a buddy that's not in cosplay that I've seen where they have a backpack just full of people's comfortable shoes for when they need to like be walking around and not taking photos. So invest in a pair of very comfortable walking shoes because you're going to be on your feet a lot of the con. Now, the next one I have here is all right. This is gonna be for if you're gonna stop at Artist Alley, you're gonna get prints or like novelty things or just paperwork in general. Please, please, all right, bring an art tube or a portfolio of some kind to keep the art safe. Do not just assume every artist has one, especially if you're going to be walking around a con all day. I can't tell you how many years I was stupid and I got art prints or I got commissions from people and I didn't have anything to hold it in because I wanted to bring like a tiny purse instead of like a backpack or a shoulder bag or something. And so I would just be holding these things and praying that I didn't crinkle it or bend it. And before anybody in the comments is like, well, the artist should. No, no, realistically, they shouldn't. They got so much else going on right now, and I'll talk about that more when I do my Artist Alley video. Don't expect the artist to have everything for you. They could run out. They might not have the time. You know, they might not be prepared for it because other stuff came up. They might have lost stuff in the mail if they were flying out. I've seen horror stories of like art vlogs and stuff of people who mailed out their stuff to try to save money on putting it on a plane and it just being lost, and so they lost a bunch of shipping supplies and stuff like that. So if you are going shopping, me and my friends would do is we would usually go to a con more than one day, and so what we would do is we would do like a scope of the con. We would do panels and stuff like that. And then the next day we would go, that would be like our buying day, if unless it was something we like really, really needed right then and there. And so I would bring like a small bag or something on the first day, and then I would bring like my backpack or like a big shoulder bag the next day because I would be shopping. And I would make sure that after a while I bought like a 3-ring binder with me just so that way I can put my artwork somewhere safe, my commission somewhere safe. Because especially at that time, I didn't buy a lot of like really big prints. If I bought prints, they were mini prints and stuff. And so because of that, I wanted to keep it safe. And you shouldn't rely on the artist keeping the stuff safe for you once you buy it and leave. So because of that, just do it. And if you don't intend to, and you don't intend on buying anything like that, I mean, also good for you. Then this thing doesn't matter to you for this tip. But for the people who want to, I also, again, I recommend the art tubes. Those things are great. You'll see a lot of people with cons wearing them. They're usually really cheap. You can make them even cheaper. Look up YouTube videos. And that way all you have to do is you get a tube and you pop the cap off, you roll up some artwork, throw it in there, close it, put it on your back, and then you're good to go. And that way it doesn't also get bent or messed up. So, all right, the next thing I have for a note is look up parking rates, Uber rides, walking hotels, the works. If you are lucky and you live in an area where you don't have to get a hotel for a con or you don't want to do that whole spiel, please, for the love of God, look up parking rates. Me and my friends have been so screwed over by parking rates before due to con season where we have spent $20 on parking for a single day because we couldn't find parking anywhere else in the cheap places, or we were with someone who couldn't walk that far. So you need to look ahead. You need to Google. And the reason why I'm being vague here is because, again, it's different everywhere. In some places, it's fine. You can get out, no problem. In some places, you might be willing to walk 2 miles if you really need to save the money. And in other places, the Uber will cost like 4 times as much, or a taxi or something, because of the area it's in. I remember after a certain point, there was a point where my parents would just drop us off because it was actually cheaper. Like, me and my friends would like give my parents gas money, and they would just drive to LA, drop us off, and then pick us up when the con was done. And so that's something else you might want to look into. If you don't have that, find a buddy that'll do it for you. Look into the stuff like that. But a lot of it's researching and do this, and it's like, why do I have to do all this research? Do you want to have fun or not? Because I bring this up because there have been many a year I did not have fun because I didn't do my research. And all the years I did, I had so much more of a blast. So that's why you need to look up the stuff. You need to do work. I know, who would have thought, but you need to do work so that way you have a good time. Remember what I said earlier in the video? If you have like literally only $40 to spend at this con for the entirety of the con, again, we're going back to the food thing. Do you want to spend 20 of that on just parking? So the next thing I have here is panels. Look up the agenda website beforehand and go to them. Here's another big tip. If there are like no panels you care about whatsoever going on at this con, still go to a panel or two. I know for a fact this might sound mean, and I don't mean this to be mean, but there have been many a time when I was at AX where me and my friends were just exhausted and tired, and it was kind of a joke that the staff would be like, "Oh, it's a fire hazard. Don't sit here. Don't sit here. Don't go here." Go to a panel. They have so many chairs, and half the time you don't really have to be paying attention. It's nice sometimes after walking around all day to just sit in a nice air conditioned room, zone out, and just kind of relax. I have done that many a time with my friends. We just kind of like vegged out in a panel. We were polite. We weren't rude to the panel person, but we did not care what was being talked about or what was going on. And we just were able to find a nice seat to chill for a little bit. And if you do care about that stuff, because there are great panels out there that are really interesting, really invigorating, and will give advice and things like that, then most definitely look it up in advance. I remember how one year when my husband and I were going, it was a big year because it was the year that they were dropping Card Captor Stock or Cleared Card Arc. If you guys didn't know, I'm a very big Card Captors fan. I was since I was a kid. It's my Sailor Moon. But they were dropping like the first episode ever of the Clear Card arc in that AX that year. But it was also going on at the same time as an Overwatch voice actors panel, and my husband really wanted to go to the Overwatch voice actors panel. And we were trying to think of what to do, and we were like, "Oh, should we just split up and do the panels we want to do?" Until we found out that the Overwatch panel that was going to go on in like 10 minutes was in another hotel. Like, it wasn't actually at the Staples Center. It was like at a hotel across the street. So he was like, "Oh wow, so even if I got there in time, the panel's going to be halfway done, so they wouldn't let me in." So we ended up going to the panel I wanted to do, and that was something we both had wished, "Oh, we should have looked online." Because usually, like a month before the con, maybe even earlier, they will have what panels are going on when, they will have what they'll be talking about, they will have the rooms they will be in, unless there's like an emergency and something changes. So look into that, okay? Trust me, it is going to be worth it because you're going to find stuff you didn't think was interesting. You're going to meet new people, you're going to talk, or you can find a nice place to sit down for like 30 minutes to an hour, maybe longer. And so that's some advice I have on that. Plus, honestly, if you are also running a panel, you don't want to have nobody in your panel. So like sometimes it's good just to check out a panel just to help somebody else not feel bad, because I think we've all been there when we work really hard on something, mostly artwork in this case, but it's the same thing because can't a lot of panel people work really really hard on like what they're working on, and so what you need to do in that case is just support them because I'm sure you know what it's like to work really hard on something and have like nobody see it. I definitely know I do, and so it's good just to support each other in this time. Be nice. Don't be a jerk. Now, the next thing I have is this one's gonna be a little bit of a long one. Hopefully my computer can handle it. But we're talking about the vendors hall now. Oh, all right. This one's gonna be quite a bit for the vendors hall. So, first of all, very basic word of advice is if you find a vendor that is really, really, really busy, it should kind of be self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised if the vendor and all the people working at the vending booth that you're at, again, not Artist Alley, vendors hall, are busy and running around and no one's sitting down and you see a long line and a lot of people at checkout, chances are they don't have time to like come just chit chat with you. I'm sure a lot of them would love to, but most likely a lot of them are hustling because they have to work. And my husband has also worked at these events, and he'd keep in mind, especially for the bigger vendor hall booths, many of the people there are not being paid as well. That could be a whole other topic I'm not going to get into right now. Many of them are obligated through their jobs already to be there and do that, and they're getting compensated like normal work hours instead of the overtime they'd be doing. This isn't for every business, but I know for a fact it happens, and it is a lot more common than people think. But usually those people are not getting paid enough to know what it is. They're getting paid to, okay, I don't know what this thing is, but I'm going to take that backpack and I'm going to pack it up and help register it. Oh, I don't know what this anime is, but, I was hired here to help man register. Some people get like really judgy and be like, oh, not even real anime. It's like, yeah, because they're doing their job. Like, a lot of bigger businesses are just hiring people to do their job. That's kind of what's going on. Many of them do care in what's going on, but a lot of others don't. So the next tip for the vendors hall is please, please check out smaller booths in the vendors hall. And you need to be really, really careful of resellers and scalpers, okay? I'm not talking about collectors because there's a big difference here. Is because some people are like, well, isn't that all the vendors hall is? Is they're like already reselling other people's stuff? No, there's a lot of collectors going on. There are a lot of bigger businesses that are there that are still like, small owned. They're not big like giant corporations there. But I cannot tell you how many times I've been screwed over by people who are just reselling stuff they bought at AliExpress. And it is something now that I actively very much look into when I do that, because you have a lot of artisans and crafters and even some artists like from Artist Alley who are there because they are just slightly too big for Artist Alley. And that has happened to quite a few artists I actually follow where they would rather be in the Artist Alley, but they are slightly too big. They have just too much merch, or they're having again a little bit too much popularity that they need to have a thing in the vendors hall. And I almost always try to check those out first. I like checking out a lot of artisans. You have a lot of people that like make a lot of clothes. They make corsets. They make props. They make cosplay. You have the sword people. But I cannot tell you, and I will tell this story really quick. I found a stopwatch booth in the vendors hall, and I will never forget how rude this man was. He was the only worker there, and he was telling me all the stuff about the watches he had and how interesting it was, and I wanted to get my husband a pocket watch because we both actually love pocket watches, but he really wanted one for his wedding, for our wedding. I don't know why I said his wedding. And so I remember finding this really cool pocket watch that was supposedly glow in the dark. And I was asking just basic stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, is it like a wind up? Is it a battery? And this guy just looked at me like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know. You gonna buy it? And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Well, like, how long does it normally last? How long do your watches last? Because my stupid brain thought this guy made the watches, or at least bought kits and put them together. Because there are a lot of people who like buy kits and put stuff together. You see a lot of pens, you see a lot of things like that. And he's like, I don't know, but here's the price. And so I just bought it. And my friend, after I bought it, I also bought like some rings and stuff. My friend was like, you should have like checked on Etsy for that first. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you probably should have. And so I have the person's business card, right? Because they also had a online shop, not an Etsy. And I just looked up glow in the dark steampunk pocket watch, and it was right there from like 90 different resellers, all for like anywhere between 10 and 15 bucks. And I bought mine for like 30 or 40. And I remember feeling like such an idiot. And then I looked at the little ring thing I had that I bought for like $15 and looked it up. Yep, same exact thing. So many shops on Etsy and eBay selling it for dirt cheap. And then I look on AliExpress and you could buy like it in bulk on AliExpress from China. And I felt so stupid. I felt so stupid, and I learned from that moment that there are so many people there that aren't collectors, that aren't artisans, that aren't actually running a small business. I mean, I guess you could technically say you are if you're reselling, that is technically a business. But I've always been a person that I would rather support someone who actually handmade something, or they were like the owner of their own business, than a person who bought something off AliExpress and is selling it for like 90 times the profit. So I'm keeping that in mind again, so you can save your money towards what you want to support and collect. Also, you're going to want to check out people who like maybe they run like a toy shop or a retro shop near the town or something, or nearby. So if there's stuff you like there, you can check it out later. There's a lot of people like that. And so I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. because a lot of people just put it as like, well, the vendors hall is just full of people reselling stuff. That's what it is. When it's really not. Again, like I said, there are so many niche creators, there are so many artisans out there, there are so many people who are genuinely just proud of their work or their craft or nerd culture, weeb, anime, game, horror, otherwise, that you can just talk to and get to know and see just how how they came to be, how like what are the stories behind some of the stuff they're selling, because there's some stuff for collectors especially where like stuff they'll be selling has a story to it, and that like really adds to the price, at least in my opinion. So the next thing I have here is all right, this is the last one. This is where I'm going to end it here. You need to check websites. You need to check Twitter threads. You need to check. It comes back to research. I know it's we're going back to doing a lot of work, but it's really important. You need to so make sure if the people working the con, I'm not talking about vendors, I'm not talking about security, I'm talking about the people who are working at the con, people working at the information booth, people walking around with walkie-talkies. You need to see if they are getting paid or if they are being volunteered for a badge. That is so important because so many cons, to save money, will tell people like, hey, if you like be con staff for like a day, we'll give you a free pass for all of the conventions. I know AX was notorious for this, and I say this because when there is no monetary value to that point, and before people are debating like, you're getting the badge, that is monetary, but no, 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 no. It's not the same. It's not the same, and I'm going to tell you why. I cannot tell you how many people I personally knew in high school that would do that, would dick around so that because it's such a big con that they wouldn't get caught, they'd get their badge and then they'd go on. Or they just wouldn't care to know stuff because they are not getting paid or compensated anyway. This is actually a very common practice in cons, but you need to look up stuff. This is where you get a lot of the horror stories of like, I talked to somebody at the con, they didn't know anything and called somebody else and the other person didn't know anything. And usually in those cases, sadly, it does go back to management. It goes up to higher ups or the convention staff and stuff going on there. But it is so important to look into that because that's going to be whether or not you're going to get anything done. I can't tell you how many times I looked at con staff and I looked for things trying to find stuff and people just looked at me like I was nuts. And they were clearly con staff. I remember going up to one and being like, oh, hi, where's this building? I don't know. Okay, well, where can I find a map? I don't know. Look around. Or you should know. And I'm like, well, no, I don't know. It's why I'm asking you. And you're wearing the badge, the vest, and the walkie-talkie, so I just assumed you work here. I do. Okay, but you don't know anything. Nah. Or when you do stuff like that. In that vein, though, at the same time, if you go to the like food halls in those buildings, again, we're going to go back around to it. Usually those people do not actually work for the con. They work for the building. And so they're not going to know a lot of stuff either. So if you talk to them, they're probably not going to know what's going on either. So at that point, you need to know, like, and you will find people being helpful, being like, oh, if you have a question, just go find an information booth. Don't even attempt to talk to the normal con staff walking around. Find an information booth. Those are people getting paid. Those are people knowing what's going on. Find people who are, like, looking around stuff. I also can't tell you how many times I've asked questions for things, and I've seen the people supposedly working there opening up the same brochure I got, looking at it and being like, oh, it says it's in this building. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know where that building is. Oh, well, it says it's here. So, yeah. And I'm not saying that to be mean to these people. Again, respect the hustle. If you're doing it for free to get a free badge, that's fine. But a lot of other people don't know that. And so that's why I say you need to look at your con for that. Because there are many cons that will pay them or give them a discount on a badge. And usually in those cases, those people are going to take more time. So, with that, I hope this helps. I hope this saves you guys some time and mental strife so we can all have fun. I know it sounds intimidating, like there's a lot of work to do, but once you do it and you're there, you can just veg out and have a good time. So, with that, I will end it here. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And please remember that I make a new video every Wednesday at the bare minimum, because sometimes people are telling me they're not getting my videos in their sub boxes, which is great YouTube. But yeah, if you can't think of something to comment, like an emoji or for the bot down below. That also helps the algorithm and helps me so much. As well as being one of my patrons. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons. I love you guys so much. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to make this stuff possible. And as always, guys, I will see you next time. Bye bye.